But let's talk a little bit about EMF because you brought that up. And that idea of it as a toxin. And I completely have always said that electromagnetic fields are toxins to you. And even I know Dr. Mindy Beck, who made you Matrix, who you've connected with as well, she actually refers to them as bully toxins because they bully the information in your body so your cells don't know what to do. It is an artificial, wavelength basically going through you. And then it kind of causes this static in your body to even know, all right, we're supposed to regenerate normally, but now it's static. Now I don't have the right information. So it definitely is a toxin. And we have talked about you Matrix, Soma Vedic, but what are some of your tips besides getting off the grid for minimizing EMF as a toxin in your body that can lead to premature aging?
Yeah, certainly. So when we look at some of the electron microscope testings on the red blood cells, when someone's been exposed to EMFs versus when they've had their feet on the ground, grandology.co.uk has some great slides up there to highlight that. I really think that there should be more data out there. And actually one of my girlfriends, she's a professionally trained microbiologist. We're going to be doing our own live red blood cell electron microscope analysis with some of the devices like what's behind me, just to test that and just add to the body of knowledge. Because I really think that this is just what you said, static on the airways. For me, it's actually sound that can really pull me out of like that flow state. Say I hear something like a car go by or whatever, that is static on my airways. So it's going to be different for everybody. Now, electromagnetics is something that I have actually been told that is one of my strong suits. And if you're unsure of really how electromagnetics and EMFs are impacting us, just remember that literally every cell, every protein, every hormone in your body is mediated through either protons, positively charged ions, or electrons, negatively charged ions. And when there's an imbalance, we're not grounded, we're too positive, that gradient is interfered with. So then we're thinking mitochondria and ATP and the electron transport chain. I'm super happy I took biochem so that I understand this stuff. So if you're like, okay, why does EMF actually, what does it actually do? It's disrupting our natural ion gradients and balancing. That's why grounding is so key right now to help to mitigate those implications. So one of the other things I would like to mention about devices and EMFs is, say I'm performing a treatment for somebody and they basically have their smartwatch on and I'm in the middle of doing something nice for them. And then they're like, oh, right. It's like they get put into that high beta state. So not only is it the invisible distortion of our human biofield and electromagnetics, but it's also the brainwave implication of always pulling you back in. So I don't have kids. I have my phone on airplane mode. I'll check it when I want to check it. All my friends and family, they know that. So those, it's like the static on the airways. I would definitely agree with that it is a layer of toxicity.
Yeah. And you mentioned some, because a lot of people think, okay, devices, Soma Vedic, I see in the background there is a great one. U Matrix is a great one, but nature is a great one, right? Like you mentioned, grounding right there, simple, easy, get outside. Ocean for negative ions, right? The rolling ocean and seawater is absolutely a source of negative ions. Like you said, when you're too positive, too charged, that's not a good thing. You need that balance. And those are things I see you apply all the time. That is your getaway, and that's how you do it. And so do you advise everyone to do that, and regardless of where you are and what state you are, is to get out there, ground yourself? How many minutes? Like if people are listening to this and be like, okay, I got to get outside, put my feet in the dirt or something, and then I'll be healthier, which is true. It is. And science backs that. But how would you recommend a client to mitigate these EMF and the harmful effects of it?
Sure. Well, I'll tell you how I started my cold water therapy journey, and it was through my dear husband. He's a pro athlete. His name's Rachel Varga, 6-time pro world champion kickboxer. He's like the epitome of a martial artist who listens to his body. So when I talk to him about biohacking, he's like, I don't need that stuff. But he is one of those rare people that is very in tune with his body. And, I definitely think he's like a new soul. He doesn't have any programs running in the background that's interfering with his ability to really listen in on that. But, you know, people like myself, maybe we need to take a slightly different approach. But yeah, I kick his butt in cold water therapy, actually. So I'll get up to my jawline for about 8 minutes in the ocean. I find that the fresh mountain water runoff, it's actually snowfall water runoff, is way colder. And I find that very difficult, but up to 7 minutes, the more you do it, the easier it gets, but it never really gets easy, especially when it is colder. Like, for example, like the mountain water runoff, getting under a waterfall feels like having icicles drilled into your head and shoulders. So that's actually really difficult. So if you're like, oh, there's a waterfall, I'll get under that. It might actually be really hard. Right. So you could just start with like a galvanized tub in your yard. That's what we have. I also have a little pond that I got in when it was actually frozen. That was interesting. Yeah, usually your feet will kind of start to like burn when you first get in, like your hands. So maybe just keep your hands out of the water until you're able to get in there. Have like a friend go with you, put a timer on. That's what I'll do. I like to do it at sunset. So then I get that sun gazing and it kind of just distracts me. And then I'll look at nature around me, swim around a little bit. But yeah, it works really well for me, not only from a rejuvenation perspective. There's many benefits to cold water therapy. I certainly find my skin is better when I do it, but I actually do it for pain and nervous system regulation more than anything. But I think it's also really worthwhile to talk about the importance of bolstering our unseen health, which is the human biofield. And I think that this is really important for just like our innate protection. So I'm happy to talk about that. It's a little bit more like woo esoteric, but trust me, this stuff all is part of the world of beauty and like a higher level of radiance that I certainly see my clients practicing. Body, mind, spirit, energy practices, especially those clients of mine in their 60s to 80s that have these practices dialed in. They're just like, they got next level radiance, even though they have fine lines, wrinkles. They're showing up more beautiful and radiant than my clients in their 20s and 30s.